It's time once more to find Northern Ireland's House of the Year. We've got a wonderfully wide variety of houses, each with something special, something unique to offer. But who's going to be making those all-important decisions? Time to meet the judges. Returning once again as head judge, award-winning residential architect Des Ewing. International interior designer Suzanne Garuda. And Manhattan-based interior and product designer Michael Tavano.
I'm looking forward to see in these 12 houses how people live here, what their styles are, their tastes. You know, there's so much to experience here that I'm looking forward to learning from.
What it comes down to in the end is whether the homeowner is happy with that style, whether that style has been executed well, and whether the end product looks beautiful.
The top house should really have a well thought out, integrated foundation, overlaid with imagination and a lot of personal input.
So there we are, 3 super stylish judges, 12 absolutely stunning properties, but only 1 winner. So, let the games begin. And so it's full steam ahead, ding ding, on our voyage to discover this year's House of the Year. So far on our journey, we've met properties that have been exotic, eclectic and diverse. And today's selection promises to both divert and to delight. So, here's what's coming up. Could this year's winner be this exceedingly stylish contemporary barn with lavishly landscaped gardens near Saintfield? Or will it be this enchanting seaside cottage retreat in Port Braddon on the North Antrim coast? Or will it be property number 1, a new build family home deep in the heart of the Clocker Valley in County Tyrone? And when I say new build, I mean newly built, barely a few weeks old. In fact, the owners brought forward their moving in date just so that they could be here for us today. It's a stunning contemporary architectural statement that makes the most of a very difficult site designed to rhyme with this beautiful surrounding countryside. This is the new build home of Gillian and Dylan Morris, who've relocated after many years in London to raise their children here. They took 4 years to locate the site and then a further 6 to plan the build, painstakingly researching everything from architects to roof slates. Everything is so well thought out, from the suspended bridge walkway in the glass atrium to the rather unusual window sizes. The finishes are high quality throughout and there's a good use of colour, hurrah. A courtyard to the rear boasts a striking fireplace feature and there's even a rather snazzy sunken trampoline for the children. There's a lovely feeling of family about this house, but obviously it's a very, very modern statement.
It is very much about the things that we owned are our taste, so the house is then driven by that. I mean, I actually fell out with one of the architects that we met because he insisted that I have to have an aga.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Because of the country setting, I had to have a kitchen with an aga, and I said, but that's not the kind of house I want.
There is so much thought gone in. I mean, things like the integration of the child gates. Are you detail people, do you think?
Yes.
Yes.
We've been very fortunate. I've been on site pretty much throughout the whole process, and that allows you to go back to the same place and see something different every day.
I agree.
And to change your mind on something, to say what about. And where we've been really, really lucky, we've had a number of very, very good people who've come forward with solutions, and that sort of allowed us to use our eyes for detail together with other people's knowledge of what's available.
Do you think that people should be personal when it comes to building their own homes?
Absolutely. It really allows you to personalise your house, to make sure that you are integrating what you want into the house and that it works for you, and you will really reap the rewards from putting time into that.
Brilliant. Well, it works for Gillian and Dylan, but does it work for Des, the chairman of our judging panel? Let's join him outside and see what he thinks of the architecture. very interesting things about this house is the fact that they've actually colonised a lot of the outside. It's as if there's a real celebration of family living, as much outside as there is inside.
This is great because this is something that's a bit of a problem. The fact we're on a sloping site, there had to be a retaining wall here, and it's made into a great feature. South is here, sun comes round, sun trap, wind trap here. It's an outside living room. This is what everybody wants to have. It's a very good job.
Very great. Now, what about the house? Because I get a sense of the house that it almost feels like a holiday home. And I quite like that. You know, I think if you're going to live somewhere in the country, why not make it feel like you're on holiday the whole time?
It's a rural-styled house. You know, you can see the parapet gables. To me, the texture of the render is just a little bit harsh when you brush up against it.
And what about the use of glass? Because we've got this big glass statement here with this wall, which I think works very well. But I like the fact that actually the glass is quite underplayed in most of the rest of the house. You know, these little slots and these little... you know, it feels more traditional.
The slot windows are very nice and work particularly well in the bathroom, which is my favourite room in the house, the corner window in it. Externally, I don't like the appearance of them just as much as I do internally.
Well, Des's favourite room is the bathroom. Let's see if Suzanne has her favourites in the kitchen. Of course, in the good old days, you used to have a range or an oven there, and you kept your back to the kitchen. But these days, it's like everybody wants to be in a cookery show, you know, or a kind of a chef's table. You can have all your friends admiring the way that you throw your pasta in the air.
I think it makes a lot of practical sense to have the ovens at high level, you know, and to have this work surface so that, you know, you can look and see what the family's doing.
I mean, it's a family home.
You're
got
connected.
The children running
You're
around.
connected.
And,
One of the reasons why this house is so incredibly successful is that it is a rural setting, but yet it's done in a contemporary way with lovely materials. But it's a very modern family home.
Well, even things like this double-sided fire, which brings you through into the sitting room, that has a sense of hearth and home to it, doesn't it? But it's done in a very clean, very crisp, modern way.
Yes, they've looked at what you can do, how you can do the curtains on the eyelets, how you can combine the fabrics. You know, Dylan liked one colour, Gillian liked another. They've used those colours together. You know, so it's a real home that they've created themselves.
Well, they've kind of pushed the boundaries a bit as well, haven't they? We've got these rich colours, we've got modern pieces, we've got traditional pieces. You get that in the bedrooms as well.
It's the personal touches, it's the personal input, it's finding out what it is you really like yourself and using that in your own home.
Talking of attention to detail, can we just appreciate the fact that Gillian and Dylan have made such an effort in making sure their curtains go so well with Miss Garuda's frock? This is a palace of thought. Every single last little thing has been thought out, hasn't it? Michael, behind your gate like that.
I feel like a rabbit in a pen. Can I come out and play?
But you see, this is great, because it's not retrofitted, it's considered as part of the main build, and I think that works very well.
It is. I like that they did that, but you know, there's a lot of thought in this house, but this stairwell is a little bit too much thought for me.
You can't not love this, though. We've got this big, tall, glassy space with a bridge going from one side to another.
It's beautiful. You feel warm and welcome when you walk in. You get the feeling of the freshness of the house. And, you know, it leads you into these two different wings, this wing being the more formal for them. I do love what they did with the window treatments. And, you know, again, they could have went up a little higher for me. And this is supposed to be the formal dining, so I wouldn't have done a desk in here. I might have done two captain chairs that could be brought over to the heads of the table. She did a lovely job with the throw pillows on the sofa. It does make it feel warm and a very cozy feel to it.
Well, there we are. It's definitely an incredibly strong contender. It's a family home with heart, but also a real strong sense of contemporary style. House number one. Let's move on to house number two. I love this series because it's about properties that have soul, that have character, that have stories to tell. It's not just about fitted kitchens or designer curtains, and this house is an absolute gem. Rather than having mod cons, this one's got old cons because it's got its own church in the garden. The Braddon, as it's named, is the home of Con Auld, a retired schoolteacher who began the project in 1962, converting farm buildings in Port Braddon. It's a unique creation with a nautical theme and is literally jam-packed with historical curiosities, from 17th century cannons to a Titanic-era deck chair. Even the bedrooms are styled as cabins, complete with porthole sidelights. Much of the property was created using salvage material, and every inch of the house reflects Con's life and extensive travels. The private church was created by Con in tribute to St Goban, who reputedly attempted to build many churches in the area in the mid-7th century. This is, I think, for so many people, their idea of a slice of heaven. That view, the sound of the sea, and then the ability to be able to create, almost like Robinson Crusoe, you know, to build something that's entirely you and your personality.
One of the points about this place is it's mainly DIY.
It's quite glamorous DIY.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Well, I wanted it to be as much nautical as possible. The front bit was agricultural building when I came, and 1962. And I've had the time of my life building it.
This is very much a work in progress. I mean, are you still tinkering with it?
Well, you have to down at the sea here.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the church.
This, when I came, was used as a little house for newly born calves.
Oh.
And
that's very sweet.
Yeah, well, it looked like a stable.
Yeah.
And a lot of the boys of Inst were up one Christmas, and they said, well, it looks a bit like a stable. It's Christmas, make it into a church.
Well,
and we heard the story of Goban and his churches and whatnot.
It is just a wedding venue in many ways. You know, it's a bit Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It's like where Elvis got married. It's the Las Vegas of Northern Ireland.
Yeah, okay.
I can honestly say this is one of the most interesting, one of the most story-laden houses we've ever had on House of the Year. So I'm going to catch up with Suzanne, who's in that wonderful front room with those gorgeous windows. You know, it does feel like a kind of a nautical-themed nest lived in by, I don't know, a very civilised, very cultivated, very gentlemanly magpie, because it's a collection. It's loads and loads of different, disparate things all brought together because they have a sense of heart or they have a bit of soul to. It's a very chatty environment, isn't it?
It's like a museum. It's like a personal memorabilia museum. And everything in this room is a little bit of history. This panelling was reclaimed from an old building in Belfast. And I mean, it's just been kind of hodgepodge together.
Well, it's wonderful because actually it's just things like doors and bits of sash.
Not only have you got all the layers of the history, the war memorabilia, all the things that have come from boats and his life's travels. And what's so exciting about a space like this is nobody else could recreate this. This is completely unique. It's completely personal.
It's certainly something you could never buy off the shelf, and that's for sure. And I wonder whether Michael has ever seen anything like this in New York. I really don't know one single interior design term to describe all of this. I suppose eclectic is close. What about you, Michael? I mean, what would you call this if you saw this in New York?
In the city, we'd call someone bonkers, but...
Have you ever seen anything like this before?
You know, not to this extent, but it is all stuff that he's collected over the years, and everything has a story. The paintings are all done by Con, and they tell children's stories.
There is a sort of a childlike enthusiasm for beachcombing and for storytelling and for Celtic mythology and indeed for Christianity, which sort of imbues everything, doesn't it?
It does, and this place really does show you all the history that's around here. You know, there's so much of it, and on the mantelpiece here are all shells that he's collected.
This feels very, very Georgian. Doing it on this very clubby shelf, which is close covered in leather and then studded along the front there.
Well, it has that feeling you're not sure if whether you're in a bar or you're in a church with the 18th century window or you're on a ship.
I think ship wins. That's to me, that window is the bridge of a ship. And it's as
truly...
if we're kind of, you know, full steam ahead, sailing out to sea. Absolutely.
Ahoy, Captain.
Indeed. And talking of captains, let's catch up with the captain of our judging panel, Des, who's down on the beach. What does he think of this extraordinary architectural accumulation? This is absolutely extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, it's not so much a house, it's more like a homestead, because it's so many different buildings.
Yeah. You know the way some people look like their dogs? But this house looks like Con. You know, it's incredible.
Where are you going?
It's just a collection of parts. It's all about the story. And here he has created something that is going to be here forever and is going to become part of the folklore of this part of the world.
I think the singularly most impressive thing is this facade here. That's something he's built himself, and it is so exquisitely picturesque. That's everyone's vision of the perfect, seaside cottage.
It's absolutely perfect. He does everything himself. He made these windows himself. He doesn't go to the DIY store.
As if that wasn't enough of an achievement, he made a church himself.
Yes.
You know,
this church.
Talk about improving on St. Goban.
Yeah, this is incredible. And the thing about this church is it's just so welcoming. It's for every religion, and it's the scale of it. It's not a big cathedral. It's something that a church that people really want to go into. But the thing about this church is it's really in heaven.
Hey, we've finally found your soft centre.
I'm in the zone, yeah.
Are you in the zone? I think we've all been very much seduced by the house, by Con, by the whole lifestyle of this. I think it's going to be very, very difficult to follow Con Crusoe's wonderful seaside cottage, but follow it we must. So on to house number 3. Listen, I'm very aware of how lucky I am. I get to hang out inside Northern Ireland's best and most beautiful houses. And this one is astonishing. The standard's been very high this series, but this house is glossy magazine perfect. It's created with an uptown, upbeat urban lifestyle in mind, but designed to make the most of its beautiful rural setting. This contemporary barn near Saintfield is home to Drew and Pamela Wiley. It's an exquisitely stylish pad built into a steep gradient, creating landscaped gardens on 2 levels, linked by a man-made stream. Internally, there are 3 levels connected by a spiral staircase and an elevator. The sleeping quarters are top and bottom, with main living space in between. The interior matches the industrial exterior, but is softened by panoramic views and the ingenious use of furnishings and artworks. It's gadget heaven, with automated curtains and state-of-the-art sound and lighting, and, to top it all, there's even a proper playground for the grandkids. What inspired you to create a home that's so discreet in the landscape?
I didn't have a dream home that I wanted to put on a specific site. I had a site, and then I had to decide what home fitted to it. We're not trying to make a statement to the outside world. Where we want this to make its statement is the friends and family that come into this home and enjoy it with us, that they will feel comfortable in it, that the whole environment's right for family living.
You're obviously not frightened of just doing your own thing in an interior like this.
I mean, we've used some things that we brought from other homes. We've bought some new pieces for here. It's just a blend and a mix of all the things that we've gathered up over 35 years together.
There is the astonishing light installation on the staircase. That looks $1 million, but it wasn't, was it?
It most certainly wasn't, no. My wife found those white globes, strung 9 of them together with clear cable and hung them in that manner that gave the sort of spiralling downwards of light, and it seems to work perfectly well. We spent our money from the outside in rather than from the inside out. You can see in the landscaping and what we've done outdoors, it really makes an impact, and that to me is as important as the kitchen or the bathroom or the living room.
Why have you got a play park in your garden?
Well, that was the place where every evening the diggers were parked, and our landscape gardener had awful trouble trying to decide what he could do with that space. And when we told him that our son and daughter-in-law were expecting twin boys, he came almost the following day and said, I know exactly what I'm going to do with the space.
Brilliant. Well, it is an extraordinary structure with some incredible innovations. Let's go and catch up with Des outside, who's really enjoying the architecture. There's definitely a real sense of trying to integrate the house into the rest of the landscape. And in fact, I mean, the funny thing is I can see a very traditional barn over there, and there's not a big deal of difference between a barn and the house.
The barn is the house.
Do you think the barn is the house?
The barn is the house.
Barn is
Maybe
the
it's
house.
another house. I think that's clever.
I do too.
When you're building in the countryside, you want to integrate.
Yeah.
So what form should you use other than the agricultural form of the barn? Such a soft, sort of low-key element.
For hundreds of years, houses were built to dominate landscape, but this is discreet to the point of camouflage.
There are too many buildings that just stand out in the countryside. To design something that's subtle and understated is always much more difficult. So the agricultural form is very clever, but it's also the way you approach it, that you see it from half a mile away and just catch the top of it. You're not sure whether it's a house or whether it's a barn. Then the way you come around the corner and it unveils itself.
Yeah.
So they've worked very well on this. It's good.
All the understatement on the outside, definitely, but inside is very, very clever, I think.
You're coming in on the mid-level, so you're only going up a level and down one level. So it doesn't really feel like a very steep house. I particularly like the way the top floor feels like a penthouse, which has got a view of the moorings.
Yeah.
On this side, we've got Scrabo Tower. Every direction, you've got a view.
So it's really maximising its enjoyment of the landscape, but actually being very understated within that landscape itself.
It is indeed.
Right, so fabulously discreet on the outside. Let's go and have some fun inside with Michael, who's on the entry level. I honestly think this is the first time I've ever seen an ultra-modern kitchen with a black Aga in it, and I think I love it.
I love it. This house is a tour de force of quality, design, the quality of living that they're looking for. This kitchen could be in Soho with this great big island that you wouldn't think would work, but it does because it's the only counter space.
Yeah.
Flowing into this wonderful space for the dining room with this dining table. It's 20 years old. It's been in their lives for years. And that's what this house is about.
But look at the colour as well, because it feels terribly confident and it feels very
Beautiful use
new
of
and it
colour.
feels very now.
And great design. I mean, the doors, the pocket doors that just hide away to separate rooms. The draperies are hidden up inside the soffits.
Curtains.
Oh, it's curtains for me.
There's also such an extraordinary eye for detail in terms of the technology, the fact that the wood-burning stove spins, you know, so it can be angled.
It's part of the room, but it's not the focal point.
Look at the ceiling. You've got these amazing audio grills that are the same size as the lights.
Well,
very, very clever.
Surround sound without seeing it. And the whole home automation, that's a part of life that really can change how you live in a home. You're going to watch a movie, push a button, and the window treatments close, lights come down, music goes on.
It all sounds very James Bond villainy to
well,
me.
the house is very much like that.
Suddenly you get a large map of the world made of steel and a warhead. I like that kind of decorating. But as Michael says, it is a tour de force of seamless living down here. But just you wait until we go upstairs to meet Suzanne, because there are a lot of innovations up there and a few surprises. It's so innovative, I think, to make use of the fact that the site slopes. So why not have a kind of a secondary terrace up here just for the master bedroom?
I think it's fabulous to have a bedroom terrace, especially with that outside. It's fun, it's architectural, and then you come into this little living area with a future-proofed lift.
Isn't that amazing?
I mean, they've really thought about the design of this
They've
so well.
also got a cunning little butler's kitchen now.
Absolutely.
So basically, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you fancy some cheese on toast or a pot of tea, you don't have to go all the way downstairs. So really, they're quite self-contained up here, which I think is lovely.
Yeah, well, look, this is a suite. This is a bedroom suite, which is what it's all about. That whole idea of suite living is definitely what people want from their master bedroom, their dressing area, their ensuite. But they've taken it one bit, further with the terrace and connecting it to the garden. But what an amazing place. I mean, it's so stylish, it's so confident. There's such attention to detail, such commitment to detail, which I'm very, very, very impressed with. The lighting has been well thought out, the sound system, everything has been considered, but done in a very sort of subtle way. This is a real home. It's got beautiful artwork, it's got beautiful pieces of furniture, beautiful colours, but it's not overdone in any way, and it's quite, in many ways, inexpensively done in a lot of places.
See, I promised you a treat. And what a grand finale to today's programme. 3 extraordinary houses. 3 quite different houses, but is one of today's houses up to becoming this year's House of the Year? So 3 extremely unique properties, each with their own very different flavour, their own story to tell about the owners. Who knows? One of them might be House of the Year. Now, before I unleash the judges, let's treat ourselves to a well-deserved recap. House number 1 is Gillian and Dylan's rural new build, a stylish contemporary residence beautifully situated in the Clocker Valley. House number 2 is Con Old Seaside Cottage Retreat in Port Braddon, an enchanting home full of historical curiosity with its own church. And house number 3 is Drew and Pamela's contemporary barn near Saintfield, an achingly stylish home oozing glossy magazine elegance. Time to find out which impressed our judges.
Well, another 3 very interesting properties for us to think about in this programme.
Yeah, these are all very different.
The competition is definitely heating up, definitely is. Now, our first house is a rural new build, which is Dylan and Gillian, and that's in Clogher.
I was amazed they've only been in there for a very short period of time. They did an incredible job just pulling it all together, and it had a really lived-in feeling. Overall, the colors were brilliant. I mean, Suzanne,
what do you think?
Your room, it was great. The couple had done a really contemporary living space with fabulous colours. I loved the way Gillian had taken that sort of really citrus green from outside and brought it inside.
The strength was the back. Whenever we walked out and we have this area that has got a fire in it, it's taken the retaining wall and made a feature of it.
So good. That was
great,
really beautiful.
I really got a sense of their personality, their travels, the fact that they had put themselves into that house. I really got that when I walked through the door.
Yeah, it was so personal. Now, there's something totally different. The Seaside Cottage Retreat is Con Old's house. Remember Con?
I loved that, and I loved him. And talking of personality, he is all in every single fibre and member of that building.
Absolutely. What can be learned about this house is that it's not about what's in style or what's in fashion when you're doing your home. It's really about the expression
or what's
of your
right
home.
or wrong.
Right, because it's right.
There was
for
lots
him.
of things were wrong. You know, he just kind of created a wall out of random pieces of wood. It looked great.
Yeah, I think the architecture fit there. It was perfect. I wouldn't want anything else for him.
Okay. Now, what about this piece of architecture? This is a contemporary barn, our next house. Drew and Pamela in Saintfield.
I love this house. They didn't follow any pattern. They went by what they loved and what they wanted around them, and they expressed it in their home.
It had great personality, great use of colour, but all done on a very clever budget.
But what I loved about it was the fact that the gardens were such great spaces. They'd made use of the levels in this case, and the way the paths meandered through it, and the way the river meandered through it was a contrast to the straight architecture.
I like that juxtaposition of the formality with the countryside and with the house.
But they used the site, so they connected everything through the water, which flowed through.
That's what's great, and this show in particular has been such a mix of old and new.
Right.
We just got to wait to see whether any of them are going to be the winner.
These are up there.
Well, 3 houses that have certainly given our judges plenty to think about ahead of the final. But before we get to that stage, join us next time when we've got 3 more enticing homes in our quest to find Northern Ireland's House of the Year.